Hey, Diane,
Hey, can you hear me?
and I'm unmuted.
Hear
I'm
you.
gonna go with video off, unless you need me.
Hi, Lily.
Hi.
Oh, nice to see you downtown.
Diane? Oh, you can hear me. Okay. I can't hear you.
Yes.
Hello.
So where's the wave feature? Or the like raise hands thing?
The wave features under reactions, but the wave hand should be the bottom right corner, I believe.
Jared, you have to turn on the participant window.
How do I do that, Charlie?
At the very bottom, are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a PC, so I see participants. Okay, I got it.
That bottom ribbon can roll off if you don't tell it to keep it active all the time.
I got you.
Okay, I'm signing in. Dennis,
Hi, Dennis.
hello.
By the
So
way, the
should I be
pack-
able to see my my image in the little box at the top menu?
You have to turn your video camera on.
Oh, all right, let me look. All right,
It's where it says stopped video.
I think I got it. Well,
Okay.
okay, now I am.
Here you go.
There you go.
You'll be pleased to know all that the PAC has blessed exactly what we've been doing all along with emailing public input to Charlie and reading it if there were any to read, and everybody remoting in.
Okay, well, let's not discuss it until city council until the meeting begins.
No, I wasn't going to discuss it. I'm just telling everyone before the meeting begins that you all are doing it right.
It's good. Mm-mm.
We have 6 minutes to go, so so far, yeah, 5 minutes to go. We're just missing Bill Brown and Eric Jacobson.
Bill, you must be using a green screen.
Bill Colebrook.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting in my den, and the backdrop is a wall that I've been working on. The wainscoting is done, it's painted, and it's pretty, but the wallpaper has not showed up yet, so it's kind of a nasty wall. So you guys get to see this virtual library or whatever I found on the internet. The next meetings will be a little bit nicer backdrop if I can get the wallpaper guy to show up.
How did you figure out how to do that?
I went to Zoom virtual backgrounds and found one and just saved it as a picture file on my computer.
Is that one of those tips and tricks things in Charlie's recommendations?
If you look at
May-
if you look at the little arrow by the video, stop video, and click on it, it'll give you the option of choosing a virtual background.
Really? Can everybody hear?
Choose
This is
virtual
great.
backgrounds.
I can hear you, Cherise.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
That's why Charlie's in the trees.
So what? Say that again, Diane.
And
You go where?
Lily's downtown.
That's great.
So if you go to the video icon and click on the arrow to the right of it, it'll give you some choices, including choose virtual background.
See, there's my background for real.
Oh,
Oh, nice. And then
Work in
Cherise,
progress.
if you choose video settings, it'll take you to a page where you can enhance or you can touch up your appearance as well.
Okay.
I should have done that a long time ago.
I just don't know what I look like. And I don't, it doesn't seem, are you guys getting a picture of me at all?
No,
No.
your video is
Your video's
not
on.
on.
My video is not on. Okay. Let me go back. Okay. The host asks that you start your video. Start my video. Got it. Allow Zoom to take pictures and record video. Do I do that too?
Yeah, we probably need to allow it.
There you are. We see you now.
Okay. I don't even know.
There you go.
Hello.
Oh, there I am. I'm in the basement, so.
I decided to wear my suit tonight.
Oh. Bill just
Right.
put a picture of him. Okay.
Bill, it's a little hard to hear you.
Oh, okay. I'll put on my mic. Is that better?
That's
Yes,
better.
that's better. Thank you.
The sunset behind me is taken on Windsor Road in Urbana.
Okay.
My computer isn't powerful enough to do that.
To run a virtual background.
Yeah, you have to have like a four core processor.
Oh, and I'm doing this from my phone, so I probably don't get that option as well. Oh, wait. Did I get that option? Here we go. I don't want y'all to see the other side.
Eric's here.
I'll close the door.
Hi, Carol.
Okay, we have about 2 minutes to go before we can start. We do have one bit of public input to be read by me.
My computer says 7:02.
Mine says 6:59.
6:59. Close enough, though.
He's in Champaign. They're a couple minutes ahead of us.
No, we should be behind you by a couple of minutes.
Yeah, they should be behind us.
Yeah, but the
Fraction of a
world's
second.
turning backwards these days, so.
Yeah.
In that effect.
Okay. Let me get my clear. Okay, I'm done with that. Well, at least I know I'm smarter than a fifth grader.
It is officially
It's,
7 o'clock.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening and welcome to City Council of the Whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
City Council members Brown,
Here,
Colebrook,
Here.
Hersey,
Here.
Jacobson,
Eric's mic is muted, but he appears to be here.
I am here. I don't.
Miller,
I'm here.
Roberts,
Here virtually.
Wu,
Here.
Marlin.
Here.
All right, thank you. Tonight, I'd like to start off with a brief overview of how this meeting will be conducted. So this is the first committee of the whole meeting conducted 100% virtually to the Governor's Shelter in Place Order and Executive Order Number 5, the provisions of the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120. In addition, Section 4 of the City Urbana Temporary Emergency Ordinance to address the COVID-19 pandemic provides for meetings of the Urbana City Council to be conducted electronically. This meeting is being streamed live and will be recorded for later viewing on UPTV. The recording will also be posted to the city's website tomorrow. Public input can be provided in 2 ways during this meeting. The first is to email citycouncil@urbanaillinois.us, which will be read out during the public input agenda item. The second method will allow for the virtual public attendees to speak for up to 5 minutes. I strongly encourage the public to email comments again at citycouncil@urbanaillinois.us. Please note that the chat function for this session has been disabled and all public will be muted. If you wish to speak during the public input, please use the button at the bottom right corner of your screen titled Raise Hand. to be called upon. This function is located in the participant window. If you are phoning in and would like to speak, please use *9 during the public input agenda item. For each agenda item after staff have presented or offered an update, each city council member will have an opportunity to ask staff any questions. I will ask each council member individually if they have any questions, ask for a motion, and finally ask for discussion before calling for a vote. Before we get through the agenda item, I believe Diane Marlin wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mary Alice. Tonight, I am deeply saddened to report that COVID-19 has claimed its first life locally, and that's of an Urbana resident. So on behalf of the people of Urbana, I wanted to extend our deepest sympathies to his family and loved ones and ask that you keep them in your thoughts and in your hearts in the coming days. There's also hope with this message. As of today, there are 63 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Champaign County. 8 patients are hospitalized, and 22 people have either fully recovered or are in the process of recovering. So now more than ever, I urge you to follow guidance from the Champaign-Urbana Public Health District, the Illinois Department of Public Health, and the Office of the Governor. For the next few weeks, please stay home. If you need to go out for essentials like food or medicine, please wear a mask and stay at least 6 feet apart. In the coming days, we will be providing information about the countywide emergency response framework that's been put into place. The City of Urbana plays an important role in this, along with many other community partners. We'll also describe how our city and others have prepared to meet the unprecedented challenges that face us. I ask you all to put the good of the community ahead of individual interests, because collectively, that is how we are flattening the curve and slowing the spread of the disease. And I want to acknowledge tonight the bravery shown by so many, from our first responders and healthcare workers to the grocery store clerks, the mail carriers, the pharmacists, and the many other service workers who keep us safe and functioning. Please show them extra kindness and help take care of the people who take care of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting on March 16, 2020. Can I have a motion?
I'd like to make that motion that we approve those minutes.
A second.
All right. Motion made by Dennis, seconded by Sharice. Are there any corrections or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, those meeting minutes are approved. Do we have any additions to the agenda tonight? All right, I don't see anybody. Whoops. Public input and presentations. So I believe, Charlie, you said you had one person that submitted public input tonight?
Yes, and I can read it.
Thank you.
This is from Christopher Hansen. Although I would prefer to address the council directly, a right provided to everyone by the Illinois Open Meetings Act, it seems email may be the only venue. Last meeting, people were robbed of that right without explanation. At the last city council meeting, residents were advised within the meeting agenda that they would be able to address the council using the Zoom app. However, during the meeting, Mayor Marlin said that there would not be any public participation due to technical difficulties. I have emailed Urbana's production coordinator, Jason Liggett, 6 times within the past 2 weeks, and he refuses to explain anything about these technical difficulties. I have also asked Charlie Smythe and haven't received an answer from him either. Mayor Marlin, you were the one who cited the technical difficulties. I think it is important that you explain right now at this meeting exactly what prompted you to skip public participation at the March 23rd meeting. What selective bug made it possible for council members to participate using Zoom, but prevented everyone else from participating using Zoom? There seems to be widespread recognition that electronic access is not available for many people. This is why Chromebooks are being provided to some families, because we recognize that they don't have suitable access for online education. I wonder if the City Council feels that they have satisfied the convenient access and public participation provisions of the Open Meetings Act, having locked the doors to the city building, advised residents to participate electronically, and then failed to follow their own guidelines. I also want to point out that the mayor seems to be frequently confused about Governor Pritzker's orders. The governor only allowed for reaching a quorum via electronic participation. He did not remove or alter any other provisions of the Open Meetings Act. Furthermore, the governor's more recent stay-at-home order gave localities essentially boundless freedom as to what extent they may continue or cease their own operations. I find it dishonest that the mayor repeatedly cites Pritzker's order when in fact the mayor has autonomy in virtually all of her decisions. It sends a message that the mayor is afraid of taking responsibility for her actions. I would also like to point out that since Mayor Marlin has ordered the city building to be locked at all times, Urbana residents do not have access to police services window. Mayor Marlin initially assured residents that they would continue to have access to these services, and she closed off all access. Then she closed off access just days later. I would like to know how residents are expected to submit police and human rights complaints during this time. Please answer this, keeping in mind that these processes have very strictly enforced time constraints and also force the complainant to jump through a number of administrative hoops, such as showing ID and having items notarized. As I'm about to send this email just a few minutes before the start of the meeting, I cannot get any audio over Zoom. Also, the host, Jason Liggett, is not allowing recording of the session, and it also seems he has disabled the chat feature, so no one can communicate any of these problems. Christopher Hansen, Urbana.
Thank you, Charlie. Are there members of the public who wish to speak via Zoom? I'll remind you that if you're on the phone, you can do *9. And if you are in the chat room in Zoom on the computer, you can raise your hand. All right, I see none. Jason, would you mind telling me if you see anybody? Well,
I don't see any hands raised.
thank you. All right, in addition, we have presentations. I don't believe we have any presentations from the staff. Is that correct? Carol, would you like to provide us with some information?
I was going to say one thing.
Way.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I just need to be muted. So I want to give you a couple of updates about a variety of things. So first, I wanted to share with the council some of the staffing challenges that we've been having and how we've been addressing those challenges. So what we had done originally in anticipation of either the original stay-at-home order or, you know, if we were going to have a lot of staff that were out, we had determined what the most essential work was going to be. And we equipped the employees who do that work with the ability to work remotely where possible. And then for the balance of the non-essential work, when the governor issued the first stay-at-home order that runs through tomorrow, our policy, our contagious conditions policy, accommodated those individuals who would be sent home until tomorrow, April 7th, but without productive work, and who would not otherwise be eligible for some other form of leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So we created something called COVID leave so that people would continue to be paid because we were sending them home without the ability to work. So then when the governor extended the stay-at-home order until the end of April, we took another look at the policy, and we have incrementally been supplying staff with the ability to work from home by issuing them computers. So we've now reconsidered what's essential work, because some of the things that we considered non-essential for 2 weeks, they look much more essential when you're talking about the service not being delivered for 5 or 6 weeks. So now what we're doing is we've been obtaining and issuing computers so that more and more of our employees can productively work from home. And now we have roughly 50 people who are able to do that. So the policy that will be in place from April 8th through the end of the month reflects the expectation that employees will work productively for at least half of their regular hours. And that is really a function of the type of work they do and our ability to manage the social distancing necessary for them to work safely. So some people are working from home, other people are working in teams so that half the team is in 1 week and half the team is in another week. That's the way Public Works is functioning. I know that in the police department, they also have this idea of a sort of a home team and a at-work team, so that should there be some spread of the virus, it won't spread to an entire shift. So, and as you know, among the people that will be working full-time are the team at the LRC, because we've been able to get that open and have some curtailed, but still, I think, useful service for folks. So as I said, we're doing what we can on the social distancing front. We are practicing all of the you know, the cleaning protocols that have been recommended. We've been getting some really good support from MTD in terms of helping us sanitize our vehicles. And it's a very lean number of people that are actually at the city building on a given day. But when we have to pay bills, folks come in. When we have to do payroll, folks come in. I'm there because the public safety folks are coming in, and I just want to be available to them. Thankfully, the mayor's isolated herself at home because we definitely want to make sure she stays healthy. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that before I move on to a few project updates.
Does anybody have any questions for Carol at this time? Carol, would you mind going over quickly the landscape recycling reopening so that the public has the information they need to use those services?
Yes, it will be open only Monday through Friday. I believe the hours are 8 to 3. We've very quickly pivoted from an almost all cash operation to a no cash operation. And that was, you know, we have real heroic staff on the IT side of things. And they've been helping us with the computers at home, but they also helped us a lot getting the connection to do the credit card transactions. But that was also a long time effort on the part of the LRC staff. So people will be able to go and you can order, you can dispose of materials. Some of the haulers rely heavily on the LRC to do that. You can go and you can get material like compost, but we ask that you absolutely stay in your vehicle. We are also doing deliveries, and we have lowered the minimum size of the delivery because it used to be, I think, a full pickup truck load, and not everybody can use that. And so we've temporarily lowered the minimum amount that we will deliver as well. So I would urge everyone to just check the website for the details on that. But the one thing I would point out is we are not working on Saturday because staff needs time to kind of you know, catch up from what they aren't able to do during the week. But ask people to just respect the social distancing when they're there, and don't expect to use cash.
All right, thank you. I think Bill Brown, do you have a question for Carol?
Yeah, thanks. I had a couple questions on what's considered essential or able to work on. I know infrastructure projects are supposed to be allowable. So I was wondering, I did see the pothole machine out.
Yes.
And that's a one-person operation. So is that continuing?
Yes, it is. Just starting on, we had I would say a kind of a more of a Spartan crew leading up to this week, but we've put together 2 teams. I have to give Vince Gustafson credit for figuring all the logistics of this out, but we have 2 teams of folks so that that are on at any given point in time. So not the typical full crew, but half of them are working and half of them are at home. And the idea behind the way that Public Works is operating is that people can function alone in a vehicle, so they don't have to have a companion, so that they can accomplish that social distancing. So you'll see the pothole patcher out. You might see somebody doing pothole patching by hand. I saw the street sweeper was out today. So we're trying to move ahead on infrastructure maintenance, which is also not just construction, but maintenance, which is considered an essential service.
And then also, how about animal control? Is that still functioning?
Animal control is still functioning. It's not as robust as typically, where any call that we would get about an animal running loose, we would go and somebody would address it. It's on a little bit, it has to be a little more escalated than that. So it's not the full level of service, but the animal control officer is available to go out on calls that are considered of a more urgent nature.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Carol before we move on to project updates?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, all right, go for it, Carol.
Okay, so I know you all have been very interested in some of our infrastructure construction projects. And so the first one I want to tell you about, we awarded a contract to Cross Construction Company. They're a local Urbana company for the Dr. Ellis resurfacing project. And I wanted folks to know that that work is going to start this week. And we are, the work that will begin is a sidewalk ramp replacement at various intersections in the subdivision. And the roadway patching and the resurfacing is going to start farther into the summer, probably early June. Now, we're not going to do what we typically do in terms of notifying people using door hangers, because we want to respect social distancing. We don't want to put something on their door that they're going to feel like they have to touch to read. So I encourage people, and Sharice, if you can help get the word out to folks, there's a project page on the city website, and we will be pushing messages out via social media and putting signs throughout the neighborhood notifying people that this work is starting. So I'd just remind you that this is partially funded by community development block grant money, and the total project is going to be about $350,000. Then we have, we also awarded a contract for the Kinch Street intersection lighting project, and that was awarded to Egeezy Electric from Springfield. That work will start late April or early May once the materials for that project have been delivered. And we'll use the same kind of a procedure of temporary signs in the neighborhood, social media, and the city website to notify the community when that project starts. And that's approximately $200,000 for that project. And then our favorite project that we're excited to get started on soon is MCOR Phase 5. Bids were open for the project last Tuesday, March 31st. Deuce Construction Company from Champaign was the only bidder, and we're evaluating the bid right now, and I can provide a more substantive update at the next meeting. And then the final thing I have an update for you is the Nevada Street Series street lighting project. And we are currently obtaining some easements from the university to move that project forward, because we do need some easements from them. And we expect to go out for bid with that project within the month as well. Happy to answer any questions about that.
Thank you. Sharice, do you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, all I wanted to say, Carol, I'll be happy to help Carol with trying to get the word out. I just started a Facebook page for my ward.
Excellent.
And so I'll put that on the Facebook page, and email me with the information again, so I'll know how to look it up on the website. But also I was going to be going out, if I can, trying to encourage everybody to do the census. So if that comes up, I can also give that kind of information just via putting a little piece of paper. I know you said social distancing, but it's just me, okay? Yep. So, you know, if nothing else, just to remind people to fill out their census forms when they come to them, because I think a lot of people may not have had time to do it or have not done it on a computer because they may not have a computer to do it on, or they just have a smartphone and they don't, you know, necessarily work it that way. So I might be able to kill two birds with one stone that way.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any questions about project updates? Okay. Did you have a question, Dennis?
Yeah, I do. I was wondering how many poles will be installed on Kinch. We're talking about the new light poles that would be on Kinch Avenue.
Well, I'm Justin Swinford happens to be on this call, and I don't have that, but he may. And he can either shake his head, hold up a number of fingers, or he can be unmuted and tell us himself.
Yeah, I wanted to pull that up, make sure you get the right number. We have 15 light poles going on or going in along Kinch. So we focus those on at the intersection at each cross street between Florida Avenue and Washington. So some intersections will get 2, others will get 1, but it should be an even light distribution down that entire corridor.
Will it be on one side of the street or both sides?
Both sides of the street.
Both sides.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any questions before we move on to the ordinance of the night? Okay, ordinance number 2020-03014, an ordinance approving an amendment to a planned unit development at 1208 Bradley Avenue, plan case number 2396, PUD 20. And this is community development. I believe, Lily, are you the one who's presenting tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to try to keep it brief, but I'm going to try to share my screen. Invite many people to see.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds. All right.
So that worked?
All right. Everybody can see the PowerPoint presentation slide?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so this was at the Committee of the Whole meeting March 16th, 3 weeks ago. I'm going to briefly go over a little bit about that in case, say, some stuff has happened in your life in those 3 weeks and we need a refresher really fast.
You're breaking over here.
The site that you're looking at right now is 1 north and then a vacant field to the west. And so that vacant field to the west is the property that never got developed as a part of 1 north. It was a Melrose Apartments PUD in 1996. The property developer who would like to purchase the property is proposing a 220 unit affordable housing project on that site.
What's up?
Okay.
Breathing.
So the site right here, I'm going to really fast go through these just to make sure we're always clear. The 2 properties that are in front of you right now are the existing PUD. And then you see the proposed development is the vacant site, and then 1 north. The amendment to this PUD, the existing approved PUD, would be to take this property out of that PUD. And then potentially put it with a R4 by right, so built to our zoning ordinance development, potentially with a development agreement. Some of the concerns from March 16th meeting was the ability to walk or bike to Federal Drive or Kenyon Road from Bradley Avenue without using Lincoln Avenue. Lincoln Avenue has a narrow sidewalk. The bike master plan actually identifies it as an area where there should be a shared use path along there, but that is not currently slated for as a project or proposal, and there's no current funding associated to that. And then the second major concern was bus pickup and drop-off traffic on Lincoln Avenue. So people who frequently are getting off on Lincoln Avenue, if they're on the northbound lane, would have to traverse Lincoln Avenue to get to the 1 north apartment complex. The same is said for 1 south that is farther down the road. Possible solutions to this, we kind of touched on last meeting. One would be to require right-of-way as an acquisition as a condition for the land being removed from the PUD. The second possible solution, and this has been kind of something the staff has been working on fairly hard every day, requiring a development agreement to allow the city to have the option to buy the right-of-way area in the future. And so that would be an agreement between the city and the developer. The requiring a right-of-way acquisition as a condition option, that option presents a couple of challenges. One of those challenges would, the right-of-way acquisition would have to be paid for. It's expensive. It would have to be maintained while the city studies what to do with the property, what's the right thing to do, how the transportation network is affected, and do a transportation study on Lincoln Avenue for possibly getting grant to do this infrastructure work, while the whole time maintaining that right-of-way. Requiring an agreement, a development agreement, to allow the city to have the option to buy the right-of-way in the future, that would allow the developer and the city to protect this possible interest in the right-of-way along the site. But it'll also allow, maybe, potentially, hopefully, will allow the owner a couple of reassurances as well. So staff is considering a development agreement. This is a site plan that was put together by the developer. And it represents 60 feet in the red hashing at the bottom of the screen.
I don't think
So
we're
you
seeing
can kind of,
that, Lily.
what?
I'm not seeing, there it is, okay.
Oh, good. So you can see that the developer has also kindly placed the parking and the buildings. They've moved them farther west out of that right-of-way reserve. I don't think the right-of-way reserve are words that we would be settling on, but it really shows you a graphic representation of the area we're talking about. It's 72,000 square feet, approximately. A development agreement could include an option to purchase right-of-way for the term of the development agreement. A development agreement can give the option to study Lincoln Avenue for transportation study. This may help applying for grant funding. It would allow staff to develop a plan and a budget for a future solution. Purchasing right-of-way now would be costly and would have recurring maintenance expenses. The March 16th meeting, the discussion was kind of cut short, so I appreciate you forwarding it to today's date and then letting me come to you and talk to you about this case. But I would like to continue that discussion if you would all please. And if you do like the development agreement idea, you could always continue the case to April 20th, and then hopefully staff can get a development agreement and this case, the proposed amendment to a PUD, to you by then.
All right, thank you, Lily. I believe, Sharice, you had your hand raised earlier.
Yes, I still am confused as to the way this is set up now. What would be the access? How do you get into the area? Because you said, I do remember before, because I know I had to leave, and I apologize for that. If Goodwin is not going to be extended, then how does one access the area?
Certainly. So it's always been the case to have this driveway access to the site. So much like any house or a apartment complex, you would have a driveway access that would allow the person to get to the parking lot that is near their building, park, and then get into their building, and vice versa. Then you have a second access to connect to the Federal Drive Extended. And so that is, that's at the north end of the site. So those were always the proposed access points, acting like a driveway as opposed to a street.
Okay, so if residents from this particular, and I think I stayed long there, I kind of heard the discussion of as well. residents of this particular development will not have access to the bus lines. They still have to walk down to Lincoln Avenue, right, to catch a bus.
Or if there's a bus that
Is
they
that-
want to catch on Bradley Avenue. But I don't think there are buses on Bradley. So yes, they would have to walk down to Lincoln Avenue.
Yeah. Are there any talks with MTD regarding, at least I don't think there are any buses going toward Lincoln Avenue from Bradley. There might be, but are there any kind of talks about how that can be ameliorated so that, because this is supposed to be for affordable housing. So if, I know most people do still have cars and stuff, but at the same time, a lot of people would end up having to take the bus, and the gray line, which goes all through the L subdivision, and this is closest to L subdivision, would require, I guess, require them to walk to Romine in order to catch the bus, if they, because there's not a gray line that goes down Lincoln, I'm pretty sure.
No, there's not.
But I know that there's a, I was wondering, are there any talks as to how to make this transportation issue easier?
Yeah. So
am I there?
I'm sorry, did I get I'm not trying to interrupt, my bad. So the gray line does currently the gray line does currently go through Romine, and MTD is currently thinking about reconfiguring the gray line route. Their idea was maybe in the future, if they're trying to straighten out, one of the options for their strategic plan that's coming up would be to, you can't hear it still. Charisse, can you hear me?
I'm not hearing anything. Hear anything she said?
I can
I'm
still hear you.
sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. Let me repeat and see if you can hear it. Okay. So MTD right now is currently reconsidering their gray line route as part of a strategic plan. That strategic plan is going to be offering or suggesting that maybe MTD use more arterial roads for routes. And so one option there for the gray line would be to meet up exactly at Goodwin Avenue. And then, but that hasn't been really figured out. MTD isn't interested in going through the site. They're trying to actually get away from driving through developments, instead move more towards arterial roads. So people would maybe have to walk.
Yeah, I haven't, Lydia, I haven't heard. It's breaking up so much I can't hear anything she's saying.
All right, so Lily, would you mind just summarizing what MTD is going to be doing and email council with the information?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Does anybody besides Charisse have questions? I do not see anybody.
Yeah,
Oh, Bill does.
Yeah. So did you also consider the possibility of an easement versus dedication of right-of-way, and what would the difference be?
Yes, we did. There was, for one reason that our between legal division and public works, we weren't able to make that option happen. But it was deemed by, as we were talking about this and trying to make it happen, as something that would be difficult to do. And I don't know if Justin Swinford is on this call, and if you wanted to add a little bit more to that.
Yeah, as far as it really just boils down to what we would want to do with that. So, what Lily suggested with the development agreement would allow us the future option for right of way. If the short-term solution was to grant the city an easement, that would still need to be converted to right of way if the decision was made in the future to build new infrastructure. in that space. We wouldn't want to build, say, a new road in an easement because then we're not granting ourselves all the same privileges that we typically have within that space.
Okay, and then say we in the future go through with the purchase of the right-of-way and we decide to only build a multi-use path rather than a road, and have it connect either to just have it connect north of there somewhere in the future. I know, like when we have right of way for the roads, the people with adjacent property are responsible for maintenance. Is that the same? Would that be the same if we had just a multi-use path through there? The adjoining property would still be responsible for like yard maintenance and mowing the grass and things.
Yeah, and we'd have to look at how wide that right of way typically is when we just do something like a multi-use path, and that might depend on whether it's curved or just a straight path. But I know there are some areas where we have sidewalks that go just between houses, and it's a very small bit of right of way that really just encompasses the sidewalk itself. We always like to have a little more room for future construction or reconstruction of that sidewalk. So. And that's why it'll be good for us to have the time to know how much right of way do we need, so that we can determine the minimum amount that we need to acquire, and then what the implication will be as far as maintenance on the sides of the path.
Okay, so if we went through with the development agreement in the future, or I guess as part of the rezoning or however that works coming up, I guess the price would be negotiated as part of that development agreement, or would the price be a market price at some point in the future when we decide to buy it?
That's probably a good or better question or an
So
answer.
it's probably negotiable then, I
For a
guess.
CD, but yeah, I think that's all yet to be negotiated.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had
Are that, Dennis, do you have a question?
Please do, yeah. So if we were to proceed with this, it would seem like a wise idea to try to create the pathway. And so the right-of-way would allow an extension of the street if we decided to go that route, or would it become a drive? Like it wouldn't be like a true street, it wouldn't be dedicated street, and you're talking also about just a multi-use path. So we're not really talking here about a street extension in particular. Is that what you're telling us? Or it's not decided at this point?
It's not decided at this point. Up until this case, we really hadn't identified this space as something that would become right away. Once it was vacated as part of the Melrose development, the city kind of not forgot about it, but it fell off of all of our transportation planning because all we have seen this as part of the PUD and a parcel that's to be developed at some point in the future. So we really don't have plans for it, and that's why we want to, if we can, give ourselves the option to develop a plan. If this is something we could, where we can create a solution for some connectivity issues, then we would like to have that option. But we need to make sure that we're making a smart choice with that, because the right-of-way could have a cost itself, and then the infrastructure that we want to build there could have a significant cost too. And building a new road within the city is something that we need to weigh fairly heavily compared to the cost of maintaining all of our infrastructure or expanding our infrastructure.
And at this point, even if we did this, there wouldn't be truly a connection to the north because there's not a planned route to connect to Federal Drive or whatever drive it was up there. Is that correct?
Well, Federal Drive doesn't quite align. The city does own the land directly north of.
Oh, it does.
The proposed right or the potential right of way. Yeah,
okay.
There's an open ditch there now, and that which actually.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Would only add to the future expense of building that road, but there is that right away was never vacated because it became part of our stormwater infrastructure.
Right, okay, so it's feasible that we can make the connection north if we wanted to, but it would be a considerable thing to consider.
Yeah, it's we need to identify what problem we're trying to solve and if that's a, say, $5 million problem.
Okay.
All right, Jared, did you have a question?
I did. Justin, you might want to move your mic a little closer. You're pretty faint as you're speaking. Lily, I had a question for you about, we didn't talk about this a lot last week. So I was curious, can you tell us a little bit more about the actual units themselves? It seems like they're pretty dense. I mean, it's 6 buildings and hundreds of units within them. Can you just talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, absolutely. And also too, if you have more specifics about building design or anything, both the developer and the owner is on this conference call. So, but anyways, a little bit about this. It's a 220 unit development for affordable housing. In affordable housing terms, that would be significant to this area and adding that. Illinois Housing Development Authority is preliminarily given the project kind of a pre-approval. They're excited about the project and providing that affordable housing to the community. The project will be restricted if they get the 4% low income tax credit. They will be restricted to only renting to people who are below the 60% average, area median income for their household. And at that, people who rent in that community will be able to have their rent capped at 30% of their monthly income. So it'll be a great opportunity for affordable housing. So that's 6 buildings, 220 units. The parking and the FAR and OSR do meet our R4 development standards.
All right, I believe, Sharice, did you have a question?
Yes, of course, now I can hear Lily just wonderfully. I couldn't hear her all before when she was explaining everything. But now I can hear her. My question, because talking about the access coming out on Bradley, and my question is, because she said it would be kind of like a drive. So Lily, how wide will this drive be? I guess that's what I want to know. What is the measurements for? Will it be big enough for 2 cars, or how is that going to work?
I believe it's it's 2 lane, but I believe it's around 51 feet. Let me see if I can.
Because I'm trying to, I don't read the maps as well as others.
I'm not pulling that up, but I can send that out. It does seem to appear to kind of match Goodwin Avenue, and Goodwin Avenue is written on the site plan as 53 feet.
Okay. And so it will be at least equivalent to the width of what Goodwin Avenue is.
It's very
so
similar.
That cars, so cars can come in and out at the same time is when I just want to know that there's not a bottleneck or anything like that. How will fire and police services, or at least fire services, get in there the same way, or will there be a back door of sorts specifically for
the access to be built right away? Would be the front Bradley Avenue, and police and fire have reviewed it. They seem to be okay with the design.
Okay.
And Lily, if I may, this isn't a final design for the site plan. What will be required, since this development is of a certain size and given its location at the intersection there, Bradley and Goodwin, we will be requiring a traffic impact study for the site so that the developer will let us know that there won't be significant impacts to everyday travel, especially during the peak times of the day. So that information is all more to come once we start getting site or more finalized site plans in.
Justice Sweetie, you have to speak louder.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you catch any of that?
I caught some of it, but
That's much
Okay.
better now,
it
Justin.
basically
Okay,
sounded like
I'll
you were whispering in the theater.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try to speak louder. So traffic impact analysis will be required as part of the site development, and that's what will help us to know that that there won't be traffic impacts, and then as part of the site plan too, we'll know that fire trucks can get onto the site and move around the site too to provide those services.
Okay, thank you.
Jared, do you have another question?
Yeah, I did. I was going to ask Lily, so just in the context of the suggestions you gave in your presentation about turning our options, the way the ordinance is right now, we can't, in my mind, necessarily pass this ordinance without having it amended to one of those things that you were talking about. I mean, if we're going to try and insert some kind of provision for the right of way or so on, is it ready to do that? I mean, do we need to pass it with an amendment just suggesting it if we were going to? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we were envisioning this as being, if you like the development agreement idea in solidifying this option to buy right of way in an agreement, would be to continue this because it has to be written. Continue this to April 20th so staff can write up the development agreement, work with the owner and the developer. And then there would be on April 20th a new ordinance for the PUD amendment that would have that as a condition, and then a development agreement to go along with that, so you know what's going on.
So there's still more that has to come along with it? I'm just confused on the process. I'm sorry.
The development agreement has to be written if you do like the development agreement idea.
Okay, so will we be able to do this, or are we going to have to hold this and wait for the development agreement to come along with it to vote on it appropriately? I see Lori's turned on, so maybe she's getting what I'm saying.
Only just to clarify. So the thought was we didn't want to go ahead and spend all the time doing a development agreement, drafting that if you hated that idea. So we wanted to come tonight to get your feedback. And if the feedback is you think that that is a good idea we should pursue, then we will draft that agreement, likely write a new condition for the ordinance for the PUD that somehow ties back to that agreement. And then you could approve both at the same time, and we might need to structure it so that one is approved before the other so that they're somewhat contingent. So we need to work out some of those details, but we didn't want to go through all of that if you didn't like that idea.
I gotcha. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, Bill Brown.
Yeah, I think we could have discussion if I move to keep this in council and bring it back on April 20th.
All right, Dennis,
So
did you
I'll
have
do
a
that.
question?
I'll make that motion.
You're going to make a motion, Bill?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
So I would then probably second that because I think it's a good idea. I think it gives us time to consider it, weigh the options, and without finalizing anything tonight.
All right, so the motion is to keep this in committee, is that correct? Not to move it to council?
Right, to keep it in committee till April 20th, and then I do have some discussion.
Okay, all right. So we have a first by Bill Brown, a second by Dennis Roberts, sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
I do have some discussion.
Yep, sorry.
Okay.
Discussion.
Yeah, I think this is a reasonable solution to negotiate for the right of way or the option to purchase right of way. I think that I know from BPAC perspective, one of our emphasis is on equity and access to all parts of town, from all parts of town, and this is a big roadblock basically to get to some pretty good employment centers and where the hotels are, you know, there's what, 3 hotels there, 4 hotels. It's probably at least 200 jobs. Potentially some other space for restaurant development there. And then on Federal Drive, there's other employment centers. So for a low-income housing development there, it would be good access to those centers, plus the connection to Goodwin Drive, that we have a major bikeway along Goodwin all the way to campus. So it would improve connectivity to that too. And just if it was built, there's a couple of different options. You could go clear up to, is it Kenyon? What road is that?
Kenyon Road.
Yeah, you could go clear up there using the city property we already own. There's also the southern half of the NCT, National Center for Teaching of English, NCTE building there. They haven't developed the southern half of that. Potentially, if they wanted to develop that, it would, you could curve it around there and go directly over to the hotel area without going up to Kenyon. If the MTD came along with a big chunk of money, like they got us for MCOR, and wanted to do some serious transportation, multimodal transportation enhancements to help solve the problem on Lincoln, it would also provide an option for that. And I know they're going to be studying that Lincoln option. This at least would give them another thing to consider when they're studying how to fix the drop off on Lincoln Avenue, where people don't have a way to cross safely to get to 1 North. So I think there's a lot of potential advantages. Realistically, it's hard to, say what's going to happen 10, 20 years from now, but I'd hate to close off the options when it's fairly easy. I hope to do this, and it didn't look like the developer was going to be able to use that part of the property much anyway. Probably there are other existing, there are some easements there, utility easements along the edge, so they would probably want to stay away from that. I think from the perspective of living in 1 North there and looking out to the west, if I lived on that side of the property, it would be, I know they have it all fenced off now, but if there was a multi-use path built through there, it would be really enhance that property as well, because it'd make easier access to campus. I do see a lot of people on their bicycles, either on the little 3-foot sidewalk along Lincoln or on Lincoln Avenue itself, going from 1 North to campus. And it's just not, it's just an accident waiting to happen there. So I hope that we can do something with this, and I think it would improve that whole area of town quite a bit.
All right, Lily, I had a question for you. So the PUD usually requires that the developer go above and beyond what is required of them in the normal zoning ordinance. What was the original items that they agreed to do for this PUD?
In 1986?
Yes.
They were required to build a fence that wasn't galvanized steel chain link. And we had completely different PUD regulations at the time in 1986. And so that was the big ask. And then they were required by city council to build the PUD, but they could use painted black chain link fence and a whole host of other options. So it seems kind of weird today, knowing how our PUD regulations are, but this and many other cases really luckily spurred us to change our PUD regulations in 2012.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion before we vote? Does staff need, okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Right, do you have the staff direction that you need, Lily and Lori, sorry?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I know it was a lot of work. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
You're muted, Mary Alice.
You muted your.
I muted myself. Okay, so that was not, I was just going to say, that's the final item on our agenda. And so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right.